Good afternoon, everybody. My name is David Weisberg. I'm the CEO for the Federation for Jewish Philanthropy of Upper Fairfield County, and I'm really excited to welcome you to today's webinar, which is going to focus on celebrating Sigd, and we'll talk all about Sigd. So I don't even have to explain right now what Sigd is because I need to learn that myself. One of the wonderful things about doing these webinars, one of the silver linings of this surreal time is that we can have guests and attendees from all over the world. And so I'm really pleased to be able to welcome friends today from Israel and from Harlem, and equally excited as we saw the registration for this webinar that we have people watching not only from our Upper Fairfield County community, but from the Berkshires and New York, and even from Israel and from Ethiopia and from Nigeria. So I'm pleased to welcome everyone from around the world into my living room today for a wonderful conversation with two really dear friends of mine. And so let me start out by introducing them to you, Beejhy Barhany and Qes Efraim Zion-Lawi. So Beejhy Barhany is an entrepreneur, activist, and advocate who was born in Ethiopia, raised in Israel, and currently resides in New York. At a very young age, she emigrated to Israel on a journey that lasted 3 years, visiting 4 countries, and I'm sure that is a tremendously interesting story for a whole other webinar. She acclimated to Israeli life, learning Hebrew and joining the army. Soon after, she traveled across South America for a year and again emigrated, this time to the US. Looking to celebrate and advocate for Ethiopian Jews, she started the nonprofit Bina Cultural Foundation, that's Beta Israel North America, and created the Shiva Film Festival. And today she is the chef and owner of one of my very favorite restaurants, the eclectic Ethiopian restaurant Tsion Café in Harlem, that incorporates cuisine from the many places that have been influential on her journeys. I love Tsion Café so much that I will be there this weekend to prepare for my own Sigd celebration. Welcome, Beejhy. It's so good to see you.
Thank you, David.
And I want to introduce my dear friend Qes Efraim Zion-Lawi, who is joining us from Carmiel in Israel. Qes Efraim is a Qes. And what is a Qes? A Qes is the spiritual leader in the Ethiopian Jewish community, the Ethiopian version of a rabbi. And Qes Efraim comes from a long line of Qesim. His father was a Qes. His grandfather was a Qes, and he has the distinction of being the first Qes born in Israel and is a leader of the Ethiopian Jewish community in Carmiel. A dear friend of mine, and among other things, gifted to me this beautiful Ethiopian scarf that I'm wearing in his honor today. So Qes Efraim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, David. Hello to all of you.
So even for some of us who feel like we know about every Jewish holiday, I could tell you about Rosh Hashanah LaBehemot, but I can't tell you much about Sigd. And so we're hoping to spend this hour helping everyone understand what is Sigd, what is the origin of the holiday, how is it observed, how is it celebrated. And so let's start with you, Qes Efraim. Tell us a little bit about the meaning of Sigd and where it comes from.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much. Nice to see you again. And the Sigd holiday, it's a very unique and very special holiday. It's not like the regular holiday that that we know from the Bible, that the Jewish world known like as Passover, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Shavuot, like this holiday. It's very unique and very special because it's speaking about one word, and the word is Jerusalem. The word is Jerusalem. Over 2,000 years, the Ethiopian Jewish community that came all the way from Jerusalem to Egypt, and from Egypt to Ethiopia, until they came to Ethiopia, and was separate from the rest Jewish world, and came to Ethiopia, they kept all the holidays that we know from the oral Torah. But the Sigd holiday, it's all about the renewing the covenant. So what's happened in the history? We see in the book of Ezra and Nehemiah that after the exile to 70 years to Babylon, those people that was 70 years in Babylon come back to Jerusalem to build the second temple by the priests Ezra and Nehemiah. So when they came to Jerusalem, they see that all the people in Jerusalem actually was very confused and very separate, and there not was a community like before the exile. So they start to organize again from the beginning the community there. So they take a date, and in this date, tell to all the people that was in Jerusalem, right now we need to renew the covenant with God. So they do a fast, do a lot of praise, celebrate holidays, and actually make a reunion with God. And when the Ethiopian Jewish community was in Ethiopia, the also was very, very separate from the local people that live there, and they need one day in a year. If you keep all the holidays because Passover, because the son of Jacob, son of Israel, go out from Egypt to Israel, and for example Sukkot, it was because after there was go out from Egypt, they sit in Sukkot 7 days, and they need to do also a day that all the dates will bring to Jerusalem. So they take the date, the event that Israel and Nehemiah do, and about reunion all the community with God, and take the event and take the date 50 days after Yom Kippur. If Yom Kippur it's one day, 50 days after Yom Kippur, like the day that Passover until the time that the gate in Mount of Sinai, the 10 laws. So they take 50 days from Yom Kippur. So we have Yom Kippur that is very, very individual day. You make forgiveness for yourself, for the sins that you do yourself. But after 50 days, in the sixth day, you do a community forgiveness to get all the community together in one heart to actually to pray to God to come back to Jerusalem. So the Sigd is took from the word Sgida, to bow to God, and and why 50 days? In the end of the 50 days, they'll go to a mountain like Moses, to big mountain, to actually to go to there and be close to God in the physically and the spiritually way. When they go to the mountain, they take a small rock with them and put it in the neck and go very, very humble all the way to the head of the mountain, and all the people that go to the priests, the boys, the girls, the children, fasting half of the day, and off of the day they are twist and start to celebrate. So without the Sigd, I think that the Ethiopian Jewish community was done don't she was a discipline in the history without the Sigd holiday. It was keep their identity to connect with God in Jerusalem as a community, not as individual. 50 days, all the 50 days, the case and the community go out from the I for me circle and go out to the we and us circle, and together we will go to Jerusalem. Together the dream will come true. So the sixth holiday was the day that kept alive the Ethiopian Jewish community.
That's beautiful. And Qes Efraim, do you know what this photo is that we're looking at?
Yeah, actually, this is the photo that took from in 76, in 82, in a village that called Ambover. This is actually the Jewish that was after the praise and the fast, go from the mountain to the village to actually to celebrate and cut the bread.
And just for those who don't, who hear this word, I think you said Sigida, which
Sigida,
from, and they say,
Sigidas.
well, I don't know that word. Where does that word come from? This is from the Gez language?
Sigd is a Gez language, but Sgida it's in Hebrew. Lisgod.
To
Lisgod
bow
it's in, yeah, to bow.
Okay.
Yeah,
or worship.
Right.
worship.
BJ, tell me, as someone who was born in Ethiopia and made the Exodus, what are your earliest memories of Sig? Do you have, I know you left Ethiopia when you were very young, so do you have memories of Sig from that long ago or from Israel? What are your most powerful earliest memories?
My I mean, I don't have much of a memory from Ethiopia. I left when I was 4, but the overall, the stories from my grandma, my mom, my aunties, is that that was a very unique, joyous day for a lot of the Beta Israel community throughout Ethiopia. That was the day where they called all different villages will meet one another in the highest mountain. So that was an opportunity beside celebrating the holiday. It was the time to meet family members that you haven't seen for many months or weeks or what have you. And so it was exciting moment at times for everybody, and especially after reading from the book of Ezra and Nehemiah and going to the highest mountain and for asking for forgiveness and all of that. The best part of it, what I hear from stories, is going down the mountain with singing and chanting and drumming and all of that, eventually to go to have a festive meal, which dorowet, dabo, injera, and honey wine, meat, edge, and you name it. It's a whole unique, one of a kind holiday, which no other Jewish community throughout the diaspora kind of remembered or celebrated beside the Ethiopian Jewish community back in Ethiopia.
Right. Now, a lot of the photos that I look at when I try to look for photos of Sig include these pictures of colorful umbrellas. And I think we have one of Qes Efraim with a colorful umbrella. So are the colorful umbrellas part of the Sig celebration? How is that part of the tradition?
Okay, so the colorful umbrella is part of the unique clothes of the priest, of the Qes, of the Kahan. And the umbrella mean about, in Ethiopia, when you sit in the village and the Qes came from far away, it's open his umbrella and it's very, very colorful umbrella. So the people can, can recognize them. Here the case is coming, it's opening his umbrella, so this is the case coming. So in a lot of ceremonies, as example, the Sigd holiday, and if you and someone passed or died, the tray is with the umbrella, and umbrella is a sign of respect, sign of a very important person.
And so I want to get back to the observance for a second and to understand a little bit about how, what you learned about the observance of Sig from your father and grandfather, and, how far back that liturgy goes. And if you could perhaps share with us a chant of a prayer in Gez that you learned from your father or grandfather.
Okay, so actually, I born in Israel. I know about Israel. I see the Sigd in Israel. I was very young at first that I start to go to the Sigd holiday. I was maybe 9 years old, and it was not like now when you see all the and the place that called Armon Anatzib, the place that we have the big stage with the spiritual leader and all the community. At first, it was in the place that called Ramat Rachel. It was very, very, it's like a wood, and there was a small stage there, and maybe 2 or 3 microphones, and people were sitting in the ground. And this is actually when I asked my father, this is the Sigd? Yeah, this is like this. We do the Sigd, the original Sigd in Ethiopia. The people came from all over the villages, fasting, start to make cry, make a lot of prayers, and after a while, when the Ethiopian Jewish community start to actually integrate in Israel, they are start to be much bigger. In Ethiopia, my father was tell me about the Sigd holiday in Ethiopia. You waiting all the year just to the Sigd, because most of the year you know it's all about you. You are with family, you are in the work, you are in farming, you are everything. But the Sigd holiday, 3 days before you start to arrange. BJ,
Plan, prepare.
prepare, yeah, to prepare to the Sigd. You start to prepare to the Sigd, and it was very unique. And the praise in the Sigd, it's all about Jerusalem. It's all about to come back to Jerusalem. There was a very special prayer that we do in the mountain, and maybe 2 years ago it was I was the privilege to go for the first time to Ethiopia, to the Mount of Ambover, and pray the prayer that my father was prayed there maybe 45 years ago. So the prayer is going like this. ويمتو كانت ونبيات ይሰግዱ ኢየሩሳሌም ወይመጽኡ ነገሥት ወመኳንንት ይሰግዱ ኢየሩሳሌም ወይመጽኡ አይጎግ ወሕፃናት ይሰግዱ ኢየሩሳሌም ወይመጽኡ ተባት ወንስተ ይሰግዱ ኢየሩሳሌም. So this is the prayer in the mountain, in the big mountain, 1 year, 1 day in a year, 50 days after Yom Kippur, and then they will come the priests and the prophecies, the king and the loyalty, the boys and the girl, the older and the younger, and all of them will bow and pray to Jerusalem.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And we have a question actually from Liz. And Liz, you know, because you had dinner with Liz last time you visited me, Qes Efraim.
Okay.
Liz is asking if you could tell a little bit more about the focus on Jerusalem as part of the holiday.
Okay, the focus of Jerusalem, it's all the time. It means in Ethiopia, even Beejhy can testify about this. And when you wake up in the morning, when you pray, when you say Birkot HaShachar, the morning blessed, you blessed Jerusalem. You blessed the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Jerusalem. And in the afternoon and the evening, and when you go to sleep in the night, you want to dream about Jerusalem. So the big motive in the Sigd holiday is all about Jerusalem. Since the first hour of the holiday in the morning, in the fasting, you start fasting that maybe to next year you will be in Jerusalem. And when you pray to Jerusalem, and there are a lot of kind of praise that every time Jerusalem is the big motive there.
And Beejhy, tell us about how Sig would be celebrated in a typical year in the New York community, not a year where everybody is in quarantine, but what would Sig look like on a typical year in your New York Beit Israel community?
I mean, not a Zoom, via Zoom celebration, but it will be very much, the number of the Ethiopian Jewish community here is not as big, but throughout the years, what we have done is we will do an invitation, and the first half of the day we actually will do reading from different scriptures and so forth in a park. The last one I have done was in St. Nicholas Park in Harlem, and actually that's where I created this Sigd prayer book. So we all, people from all walks of life, not necessarily only Ethiopian, or people who just wanted to celebrate and know about this unique holiday, came from all over the country and celebrated with us in Harlem. And after that, we walked throughout the street of Harlem with our umbrellas to have a big festive meal. We started the meal with coffee ceremony just to give it a nice aroma and blessing to the whole place. Cheers to that. And after that, we had somebody blessing on the dabo, the equivalence of challah, our unique bread, blessing on it, because it is a high holiday, it's a special holiday. And of course, blessing on a wine. And from there, you will have a very delicious variety of dishes. As I mentioned earlier, if it's coming from traditional chicken stew that 3 to 5 hours to make. So it's really unique, usually served for wedding, holidays, and so forth. Or you will have the vegetable stew, such as lentils, split peas, collard green, cabbage, and all of that. You put it on an injera bread. The injera is the unique bread of Ethiopia at large, and is utilized to scoop the different stews and feed one another, listen to good music, and just dance until the end of the day. So this is what we have done in the past here in New York.
And what does Sigd look like in Israel today, Qes Efraim? I know that Sigd became a recognized national holiday in Israel, I think about 12 years ago. But what is it like in Israel now? Is it still just a holiday of the Ethiopian Jewish community, or has it started to become embraced by the larger Jewish community?
Okay, David, as you said, in 2008, there was a government decision that tells that the Sigd holiday, it's actually a national holiday to all the people in Israel, and recognize them as a holiday in Israel. But at first is an amazing thing, because when the spiritual leader, the Qesim, came in the early of the 80s, that they came to Jerusalem, to the Western Wall, standing there, and all the people there, they are asked the Qesim, what now? So they ask, okay, this is the temple, this is the Western Wall. Everyone said yes. The temple is here. Everyone said no. The 12th tribe, they are in Israel. No. There are peace in all over the world. They are saying no. So we need to continue with the Sigd holiday until the time that the temple was built, until the time that will come the Geula. How do you say Geula, Beejhy?
The salvation, when when the temple is rebuilt.
Yeah, when the temple is rebuilt, until then we need to keep save the Sigd holiday. So right now in Israel is preserve the Sigd holiday. A lot of people came from all across the country to Jerusalem in this day, not just from the Ethiopian Jewish community, but in different communities come to learn, to actually to celebrate and learn, to hear the voice, the sound of the Giz language, and the prayer that the spiritual leader prayed there. And the younger people that want to actually learn more about their roots, about their history, came to there and make a connect with the community. A lot of the people here born in Israel, a lot of youngers, boys and girls came to there. So today it's very, very, famous in the public. It means all the society came from all across the country come to celebrate. there are also a new thing that got to the Sigd, and it's actually the situation that we have in Israel. For example, when the soldier Gilad Shalit was in Gaza, so the spirit leader prayed that he will come back home safely. And right now, Avera Mengistu is in Gaza, and the soldiers. And every year, and someone is sick, we pray about those people that sick. Everyone bring in the time of the situation in the country, we do praise about this.
Great. And you're both parents of children. I know Beejhy's children are older than yours, Qes Efraim, but is Sig something your children get excited about, look forward to? How is it part of their lives?
Beejhy?
For me, it's exciting because it's a unique Ethiopian Jewish holiday, and to showcase that celebration of Sigd throughout the Jewish world, I mean, for Jews from all over the world to celebrate it in Israel, is celebrating diversity, and it's empowering to see that Sigd finally become a national holiday where people be able to learn about the unique holiday. If it's a Jew from Yemen, Morocco, Tunisia, this is how we have to engage and exchange and learn about one another. You know, we know a lot about, for example, the Mimuna after Passover or something at that nature of Passover. So showcasing and celebrating Sigd is definitely empowering, and it's great that is a national holiday.
And Qes Efraim, did your children get excited?
Yeah, actually, my.
Oh, you're on mute, Qes Efraim.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, actually, my children is much younger, as you said, but my older daughter, Alelia, and my older son, Eviatar, both of them ask me a lot about our customs, about our tradition, about the Giz language, and they are very, very small. I think that in this year, it's you know, because the virus and the COVID-19, I was planned to take them to Jerusalem and celebrate the first Sigd holiday in their life. But they ask the questions, and right now I teach them very, very good, and I hope that in the future they can come with me and celebrate in Jerusalem.
Me too. I want to come with you and celebrate.
Okay.
And Beejhy, if David, as an Ashkenazi Jew living in Connecticut, who's never celebrated Sig before, decided, you know, this year I want to dip my toe into Sig. I just want to do something meaningful to honor the holiday. Is there something you could suggest that I could do?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the one thing you can do, for example, is cook a nice dish of Ethiopian origin, which, you know, you have the category, we're going to do that. Or have a scarf or something that symbolizes. And I will recommend as well, read from the book of Ezra and Nehemiah, I would say chapter 8, a few verses. And here you go, that's your Sigd. I mean, you know, nowadays we cannot come together, but I'm sure everybody have the Tanakh. Take a book from Ezra and Nehemiah and read a few chapters. Read a few chapters from the book of Exodus, chapter 19, and you're done. You already did your own unique celebration.
Wonderful. So this is a great segue into sharing this wonderful Sig cooking demo that you've provided us with. So I'm going to do that in a moment, but after we watch that video, we're going to open up to questions from our attendees from all over the world. And I want to let everyone know that there are two ways you can ask questions. One way is to type your question into the chat feature, and I'll be able to see it there and read it to Qes Efraim and to Beejhy. The other way is to raise your virtual hand. And if you raise your virtual hand, I can invite you live into the conversation with us. What that means, among other things, is if your camera is on whatever device you're watching it, then you will be on the screen with us. And so I want to let you know that in advance, in case you're still in your pajamas at 2:30 in the afternoon, or in whatever time it is, in whatever time zone you're in now, that you should be aware. But we'd love to have Beejhy and the Qes Efraim answer your questions and make this a real interactive program. But right now we're going to share this wonderful cooking demo that Beejhy was so kind to share with us.
My name is Beejhy Barhany. I am the owner of Tsion Café, an Ethiopian Mediterranean restaurant located in Harlem, NYC. We're all about harmonizing and celebrating Jewish diversity throughout food. We're going to go through the process of the different ingredients that we have to make the Ethiopian gomen hamli for the Sukkot. So as you see, I have my beautiful seasonal collard green. In Ethiopia, we call it gomen or hamli. Around the harvest time, people will go in their backyard in the garden and just collect a few pounds, I would say, and basically dice it, cut it. We have the garlic here, a little bit of ginger. We're going to cut it and peel it as well. And about 2 yellow onions, medium size. You can definitely cut the edges of the collard green, but you're going to dice it nice and small. I mean, it's going to take us a little bit. You guys might need to pitch in to help to cut it. Collard green is it's nutritious, it's green. The way we cook it, it's vegan. I don't cook it with butter, with canola oil, and it gives a vibrant color to your table, to the menu. Traditionally, as I said, this is found in the wild, so you don't need really to go to the market and buy it. And it's organic, and is available free from nature, so it's delicious. You basically take your onions, cut it, in quarters or so, and I'm gonna peel my ginger quick. I don't need much of it, maybe half a teaspoon, and all of that goes to the blender. See, almost there. Yeah, this is what you basically want. I'm gonna dump it in here, nice and smooth, all of it together. So we're gonna take a medium pan, and then you can add your half a cup, quarter cup, according to your liking of oil. You can do it with olive oil, you can do it with canola. If you want, you can do it with butter as well. I keep it vegan, simple. I cook with canola oil, add my onion. Because of the garlic and ginger, it might turn a little bit kind of green, yellowish. That's when you know it's cooked well, and then you can add your collard green. So for now, we have to let it sit and cook nicely for about 10 to 12 minutes or so. From the first time, the color, it was very white, now it's turning kind of green. So we're gonna take our collard green, add it here. It looks like a lot, but volume-wise, it's gonna shrink. And we're gonna let it cook down. You don't need really to add water. And now is, I guess, the time to season it. We're gonna put our salt and pepper. It's according to your liking. I think this is enough. I'm gonna take some cumin and a little bit of nutmeg for the nice aroma. We're gonna mix it nicely. It's so simple, it's just a collard green. I will cut a little bit of injera. You can enjoy it with injera, rice, or by itself. And we're ready. Basically what you do is you rip off the injera. As an honor of a guest that is coming to visit us, we'll give them the first bite. And here you go. Enjoy.
to unmute. There we go. Qes Efraim, are you hungry? I'm
Yeah,
hungry now from watching that.
very. It's almost 9:30 and I'm very starving.
Yeah, it's time to go eat dinner.
I could smell it through my through the screen of my laptop, and I'll be ready to eat some this weekend in honor of Sigd. And so I want to invite our attendees. If anyone has any questions, please raise your virtual hand or feel free to type them in. And here's a question from Liz, and Liz asks, is there a strong tradition of keeping kosher? Is there a strong tradition of vegetarianism in the Ethiopian Jewish community?
Video for me.
For either of you.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, veganism is part of Ethiopian tradition. People eat a lot of vegetables. Of course, they have the access to meat, chicken, and fish, and all of that. But it's just a way of life. It's not a niche or something. But years or so, and beside that is just a healthy practice. The other aspect of it is within the Christian tradition of Ethiopia, they do a lot of fasting, which is not eating meat or dairy or anything like it. And you have that influence of vegan aspect of it within Ethiopian cuisine at large. But what separates Ethiopian Jewish cuisine from the rest of the Ethiopian non-Jewish is the fact that we do not eat raw meat, which is very popular among non-Jews. But the overall, I would say within Ethiopian culture, veganism is there for thousands of years. That's the culture.
And Qes Efraim, how about in your community? Is veganism, is kashrut a big part of your Jewish community in Carmiel?
And no, actually here in Israel, as Beejhy said, in Ethiopia, it's all about the culture. Most of the people love to eat a hummus, a small hummus, and a lot of vegetable. And this is actually make you much healthy. You know, the meat is, if you have some holiday, if you have some wedding, something like this, but it's not the base of the food. In Israel, you know, like regular people, everyone eat his own in its own way. Not we don't have some of um, um, movement, some of I don't know, derech, as a derech, Beejhy.
The way.
Yes, some way to for vegetable or meat.
Mm-hmm. And Qes Efraim, I know your mother to be an amazing cook because I had the privilege of having lunch at your home. What's your favorite thing that your mother might be cooking for the Sigd feast?
My mother, as you said, it's very great cooker. She cook very. I love that when she do vegetables like the gomen, but with tapuach adama.
Potatoes.
With potatoes. This is the most thing that I love.
Mm-hmm. So we have a question from Naomi. Naomi says, my daughter-in-law, who is Ethiopian but not Jewish, said she was taught that all Ethiopians are descendants of the Jews. So is this something that you've ever heard, Qes Efraim?
Yeah, because you know in Ethiopia there have a faith and book that called Kevre Negest is the book of the kingdom of the kings of Ethiopia, and it's speaking about King Sheba that go to Jerusalem, and there are a fairy love story between King Solomon and Queen Sheba, and she was pregnant, and she come back with the pregnant to Ethiopia. So the Ethiopian people in Ethiopia believe that they are descendants of those boys that born between the fairy love between King Solomon and Queen Sheba. Even the emperor, the last emperor, Haile Selassie, is said that is ascendant from this dynasty. It was the 26, if I don't have a mistake. And yeah, there are faith like this that the Ethiopian believe.
Right. Qes Efraim, I know that there are Jewish communities in not only in Ethiopia, but in Uganda, in Nigeria, I think now in Ghana and other places. Is Sigd unique to the Ethiopian Jewish community? Have you discovered anything similar in any other African Jewish communities that you are aware of?
No, I don't think, because our fathers believe. When I asked my father for the first time, I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, how it can be that we are Jewish, but our skin is dark, and most of the Jewish they are with a white skin. Father, how it can be? And he's told me because those the group of the people, like in the case of all over the world, the group of the people that came from Jerusalem all the way from Egypt, that was married with a local woman, and the people that came to Sudan were got married with a local woman, and also the Ethiopian, as we see, like from example India, we see Indian Jewish, they look like a regular India, and you go from if you go to Europe, you see that the people, only the religion making the religion is different, but the skin and the look is the same. So in our heritage and our tradition, we believe that directly the people came all the way from those two countries, Egypt and Sudan, and then to Ethiopia. So I don't hear about similar holiday in other communities.
Right. So Stacy wants to know, how large is the Ethiopian Jewish community in Israel, and how large is the Ethiopian Jewish community in the United States?
I answer about Israel. Now we have 160,000 Ethiopian Jewish in Israel.
I mean, in the US, to my knowledge, I would say over 1,200, give or take. There is a big community in Canada, and of course here in New York and throughout the US. But I just want to pinpoint regarding that. Uh, if the descendant of Ethiopian Jews of Ethiopian being how Ethiopia practiced Judaism. If you go back in terms of history, um, the land of Ethiopia is mentioned more than 50 times more than any other country, if you know. So it's an ancient Hebraic land. So what I would say is before, and as if you know, Christianity came to Ethiopia only on the 4th century. So in that case, there was a so when eventually Christianity came to Ethiopia, some of them converted and some kept their Jewish tradition and went up to the mountain to preserve it. And they called themselves, the non-Jews called them Falasha, which kind of falso. They separate themselves from the rest and went up and practiced their Judaism. So if you ask a lot of Ethiopian they have a lot of similarities and aspects that they are very much Hebraic tradition. If you're talking about a circumcision of the boy on the 8th day, or absorption of the Shabbat, or not eating the pork, so the whole aspect of Hebraic, Jewish, you name it, is definitely a base in Ethiopian culture at large. And of course, throughout years, people converted, intermarriage, and so forth.
Right. So I'm getting some more really interesting questions. So Ellen asks, what kind of programs do you have to teach Amharic to your children in Israel and New York?
Okay, so in Israel, actually, we don't have very arranged teaching of children.
And just so everyone knows, Amharic is the Ethiopian language, not the liturgical language, but the Ethiopian language is Amharic, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So to teach Amharic right now, in Israel, first the Ethiopian Jewish community came. They came with a dream, but the dream and the reality was very different. So 35 years it takes you to build yourself as a community, um, has a people in Israel, but right now we start just right now in this time in this year we start to actually to organize officially teaching of Amharic. Until now it was everyone teach his own children in its own house, but right now you have places that you can send your children to learn there. So we have centers that you can learn to your children to send them to learn them.
And BJ, is there a place that children are learning Amharic in New York?
It used to be pre-COVID. There was a few Ethiopian, not necessarily Jewish, organization that they had a few classes throughout the weekend teaching Amharic for adults and kids. I don't know what's going on now, but yeah, there's quite a few of them.
So I have a question about music from Reli. She says the Lemba in Zimbabwe have their own unique musical instrument, the mbira. Do Ethiopian Jews similarly have a unique musical instrument of any kind?
לא הבנתי את השאלה, ביג'יי.
לגבי כלי נגינה ומוזיקה של האתיופים, של אתיופיה, שלנו. אתה רוצה לענות?
כן, אם יש לנו את זה, אם זה קיים?
Yeah, כלי נגינה שלנו.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the Ethiopian Jewish all over the history that are pray until now here in Israel. We pray with the drum and with the shalish. How is shalish?
I'm not sure. It's very biblical instruments that back in the days at the temple, at the time of the temple, used to use. If it's a kind of trumpet, some ancient drums, and I don't know, it's something like a triangle, right? Meshulash? But I do not know the name in English.
Yeah, so we pray with this kind of with
instruments.
Instruments, yeah. In holidays, in the Sigd holidays, in Shavuot, in Rosh Hashanah, in Passover, in Sukkot, we pray with instrumental.
So somebody is asking about the use of the term falasha, and if that is a negative term or that's an appropriate term. Can you, Qes Efraim, tell us a little bit about falasha and the meaning behind that?
Okay, the meaning behind that is because Beejhy speaking about this before me. The people that came to Ethiopia after the exile, when practiced their own Judaism in the mountains and sitting in the mountains of Simeon, the local people all the time want to remind them that they are invaders. So invader, falasha is mean invader. You are invader to a place that is not your own, and you are invader. So it's bad nickname that the local people was bring to the Beit Israel community in Ethiopia.
Okay. Ellen asks us about the tradition of Ethiopian basket weaving and whether that's still something that happens in your communities or whether that's something that is just part of traditions in Ethiopia.
Basket weaving, I mean, the way it is traditionally, every household, the female in the household have her own unique design. She will do the weaving for her baskets, and it's kind of signature artistic design that will hang on their home. If it's the same thing about the scarves, so each individual have their own unique way. I would say my mom used to do her own style and it's unique on her own. My grandma had her unique style. I don't know if when we first immigrated to Israel, a lot of them used to do it, but right now, I'm not sure if it's still going on.
Right. Beejhy, I know that you are working on a children's book about Sigd. So what is it that you want, what's the most important thing that you want children to understand about Sigd if they're going to have this book read to them?
I want them to understand about the unique diversity within the Jewish world, that how we should embrace and celebrate our unique as individual and learn to accept and celebrate everybody in the Jewish diaspora. That's my message. If you know a little bit about Sigd, and eventually you will understand about this particular child, history and heritage, and you welcome him as my brother Jewish. Brother Jewish, brother, sister, all of that, celebrating this Jewish diversity that we have all to celebrate here.
Wonderful. So as we're getting ready to wrap up, I want to ask each of you to share with me if you have a favorite Sigd memory. Do you have a favorite story or a memory about Sigd?
I have when the first time I go with my father to Ramat Rachel, to the place that the Sigd is happening there in Jerusalem. It was maybe 26, 25 years ago. I was children, and I remember that I took my father's hand and we go, and there are a lot of people that push you, and my father push people until they came to the stage, and I see my father and he started to cry. And he's crying. And I said, Father, why do you cry? Father, why do you cry? And he said, I didn't believe in my life that I will. My father was a very old man, and he said, I didn't think in my life that I would go to the Sigd holiday with my Israeli son in Jerusalem. So it was very, very emotional and exciting.
Wonderful. And Beejhy, do you have a favorite Sigd memory?
A favorite Sigd memory is all the beautiful Beta Israel ladies wearing their nice white dresses, embroideries, and putting their hands up to the heaven and asking for mercy. That is an image that I would always remember and appreciate when I went to my first Sigd.
And so Sigd starts on Sunday night, correct?
Yes, November 15th, that's right.
So what preparations will you be doing in the next few days to get ready for the Sigd holiday?
Well, I have enough injera and I have a lot of other stews to eat together. I'm going to drink some honey wine with my family and just give thanks and hoping for a better future for everyone.
And you, Ephraim?
In this year, because the COVID-19, we don't go to Jerusalem. We will be every community with a little bit people in its own synagogue. There will be maybe 20 or 40 people in Jerusalem. Only the spiritual leader and the holder people will be there. So I will celebrate and fast with my family here in my community in Carmiel.
And so I want to finish up by asking this question. If everybody who is watching wants to reach out to each other, wants to reach out to you and give you an appropriate greeting for the Sigd holiday, what is the greeting that they should give you in the next few days in advance of Sigd?
Beejhy?
Put it down and say, Melkam Baal.
And what does Melkam Baal mean?
Have a great holiday, happy holiday.
So Melkam Baal to both of you and to everyone who's watching us. Thank you so much for spending an hour with us today when you could be spending time making your stews and getting your honey wine and injera ready for Sigd. I've learned a lot, and I hope that everyone who is watching and sharing this time has learned a lot as well. Beejhy, your restaurant is one of my very favorites. I encourage anyone who is within driving distance of Harlem to make their way to Tsion Café sometime, if for nothing else, for the malwach that Beejhy serves for dessert, which is one of the most exquisite things that I've ever had. And
amazing, amazing.
and Qes Efraim, you are not only my friend, but you are one of my rabbis. And so thank you for playing this part in my life. And I'm so happy to be able to talk about Sigd with both of you and to have this little reunion of the three of us together in the presence of so many others from around the world. So thank you very much. And I'm scrolling back up my chat here so I can remember Malkam Baal. That's what we want to say to you. Malkam Baal. And Shabbat Shalom in advance of that.
Same to you. Happy Sigd, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Happy Sigd. Take care.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.